Welcome to the Fight Show here on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, in the studio as ever, Spencer Oliver, and we're joined, I'm delighted to say, by Don Charles, trainer of big Dereck Chisora. And there's not been a great deal of news about that one, has there? We'll
Just a little bit.
Get a bit into that, I'm sure. But we are going to be, of course, previewing all the big fight action ahead of another great weekend of boxing, and looking stateside, speaking to Yahoo's man Kevin Iole about everything that's been going on, and no shortage of tales as ever from the American side of things. We're going to be giving our own Olympic countdown as well, because of course that GB team taking shape very nicely, of course. But Spencer and Don, of course, starting with the what's been a talking point for the last, I suppose, week or two anyway, the big heavyweight clash. Dereck Chisora, David Haye is on Upton Park. The tickets flying out, whether you like it or not, and obviously a lot of people don't like it, with the board of Luxembourg, of course, coming in to actually license this fight with everything that's gone on. And firstly, Spencer, your thoughts. I mean, I know that obviously you know David Haye very well. You're close to Dereck. We know what went on in Munich. That's been spoken about a great deal. We know that there was a delay in the hearing for Dereck and everything else, and Frank Warren's got involved. This fight, you kind of gut feeling towards it.
Listen, we knew the fight was going to happen when that happened in Munich. I mean, firstly, let's just say if David Haye never turns up at a press conference, this fight would never have been happening. David come and gate crashed Dereck Chisora's night. Dereck boxed tremendously well. I mean, put in a brilliant performance, didn't he? He was unlucky losing on points to Klitschko. David Haye gate crashed the party. Dereck's emotions were running high. We know what Dereck's like. He's an unpredictable character anyway. There it was. So this has happened. Now, the fight had to happen off the back of that, didn't it? I mean, for me, it was only a matter of time. The boxing board, I mean, me and Donna spoke about this loads of times. I spoke about it, but Dereck, his actions prior to the fight and everything else were not acceptable. Dereck was the first one to apologise. And the fight was always going to happen, but the boxing board done the wrong thing by withdrawing the licence. I mean, what they should have done was which Don was happy about, which we were all happy about. I was happy about. Everyone was happy about. If they would have said to me, you know what, 6-month ban, your behaviour was terrible, 6-month ban, big fine. Now Dereck would have took that. Everyone would have taken it, but you can't withdraw a licence and leave a fighter that's the only means and way that he earns a living is by fighting. You can't withdraw a licence and say, well, we'll let you know when you can fight again, because I mean that's not fair. The actions weren't acceptable before the fight. He knew that, and he was willing to take the punishment. But don't withdraw a man's licence. So anyway, now we've come to this, and what other options has he got? So they've gone to Luxembourg. They've found a loophole in this. That's why the fight's going on here, because they found a loophole that his licence had been withdrawn and he hadn't been banned. So it was a fight that was always going to happen. And listen, like you said, like it or don't like it, the public want it. I mean, they sold 17,000 tickets in the first couple of days. They've nearly sold out now. All the ringsides are gone. The ringsides are going for ridiculous money. Some sites you can get ringsides like $3,000 each. So, like it or not, the public want to see it. It's a fight that needs to be sorted out inside the ropes, not outside the ropes. It's exciting, Dom, and I'm looking forward to it. I certainly am. I mean, I'm close to both guys, more so Dereck, because I've been with Dereck. There's a lot of history with going back with Dereck. I know David, so it's just a fight that I want to see. I like it. I'm excited about it, and as Don would tell you the rest, really.
Just gives you an insight into the timeline of this, Don, because this has happened quite quickly, hasn't it? In the big scheme of things, it's not so long ago that the night in Munich that we all know about.
Sure.
Now, I know there was a delay with the hearing, which upset Frank Warren, but when did you first get wind that this was going to happen, and when did it all start taking shape?
Well, it's the same as everybody else. When everybody found out that I'm not a promoter. If I was, I could give a more detailed answer to that question. But all I can say to you is from how it came out that the fight was on. I personally didn't think it would be on because of the license being withdrawn and revoked. So it was a surprise to me as a trainer when I was told that fight will be happening and the date it will be happening. Didn't think it was possible for that fight to take place in this country. Like I said, I'm not a promoter, and Frank, one of the best promoters in the world, it's his business. So obviously they've looked into it legally and then exercised what they believed they could to do to make it happen. To elaborate a little bit more on what Spencer, because I speak to Spencer on a daily basis, you know, it's quite a sensitive subject in the sense that I will say it, it's the truth. The truth is that, like I said, the board revoking his license, yeah, there's other people involved in Dereck Chisora's life. His mother, for instance, she's a single mother, okay? He's the sole breadwinner of that family. He has quite a large family, and they all rely on him. His mother needs him badly to bring the money in so they can pay their bills like everybody else. Then there's myself, the trainer. Nobody ever talks about the trainer of fighters. I'm talking about nationwide, what trainers do to bring these guys, to prepare them on a daily basis. Yeah, nobody ever speaks about the trainer. Well, I'm going to speak for myself. What I've sacrificed for Dereck Chisora to be who he is in terms of boxing ability, and as a person. Okay, on the outside, he may appear like reckless and uncontrollable, crazy. I'm not going to defend, I'm not here to defend anything he's done or justification of anything he's done. Two wrongs don't make a right. He's a kid. Don't forget, how did this kid get into boxing? Yeah, probation officer took him down to your boxing gym.
To
his family. Yeah, his family's boxing gym in Finchley, the amateur club. That's how he got in boxing. Getting him away from the street. Yeah. Now he's found something that he could channel all the anger and energy into, right? And to then take his license away, from how I know him, he will resort back to bad ways. Now, is to teach him a lesson, do you push him back into how he was? Okay? Like I said, then there's other people around, his mother, myself. Okay, we've sacrificed so much.
But it's dangerous though, isn't it? You can't, in a way, you can't make apologies for somebody's bad behaviour just so, well, he might go back to the streets. So it's kind of, you know, what are you going to do?
Right.
Surely you can't just do that for everybody.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I believe what the board should have, they should have sought legal advice before imposing that revoke of his license.
I think what the
because, like Spencer said earlier on, had they come out and said, you're banned for X amount of months.
If they'd have acted swiftly anyway, you think that a lot of this whole process could have been a lot more...
What should have happened is...
more assertive in their decisions.
Like what's happened in the history of boxing, the boxing board either say you're banned for life, you're banned for 12 months. Like when I was training Adrian Dodson, he bit a guy in the ring, boxing for a Commonwealth title, they banned him for 12 months, give him a fine, and that's normal procedure. This guy's had a fight, he's behaved, he's stupid, he's behaved erratically all through the week. You know, he's accepted responsibility, he's come up, he's apologised. Give the guy a ban, you know, this is what he does. You know, give him a ban, don't withdraw the license, that's the problem.
But the word, let's not forget, the word was indefinite.
Yeah.
It could mean tomorrow, if you appeal, it could mean in 5 years' time. Okay, you're in limbo. What about the other people around him, i.e. his mother? What about the work? I haven't offended anybody. What about the work I've put in as a trainer? So it's all, they're caning me as well, indirectly. So at the end of the day, Frank Warren has done what he's done. He's a promoter, that's what he's best at doing, okay? And you know, these two guys, David Haye, like you highlighted, should never have been in that room for starters. It was Dereck Chisora's moment, okay? He just had a hard 12-round fight. Next minute, he's getting hit on the mouth with a bottle. Again, suddenly he's the one, Dereck Chisora is the one who's everyone's jumping on.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in what you're saying, but what happened there, we don't really want to go over that again, do we? Because as you say, nobody said it was right.
But no,
it's how we move on best.
What is going on, I mean, what is going on, you know, put all that aside, what is going on July the 14th, David Haye versus Dereck Chisora, I mean, that's one of the biggest fights of the century.
Yeah,
and that's not an exaggeration.
Though. I mean, you work with young kids all the time.
Absolutely.
And with other fighters, you still got to get the right kind of level of punishment, the right message.
Sure. A lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of program. We're not silly. People around Dereck. He's got some very good people around him. I'm one of them. Okay. We've got programs where Dereck, prior to the Klitschko fight, where he was going to visit schools and give talks to kids about gun crime, knife. This is all in place. This is still going to carry on, okay?
Also, what you got to realise is that he realises he was stupid. Charles would be the first one to tell you, Don would be the first one to tell you that he knows his actions were stupid. You know, that's Dereck, unfortunately, he's a little bit unpredictable, but he did apologise for him, and that's why I'm surprised they left him in limbo and just said to him, withdrawing your licence indefinitely, because, you know, he realised that that's not the message he wants to send out to kids. That's why he wanted to start working with kids and stuff like that. Not defending him, because I don't think that his actions were right, but I'm just saying I see him every day. We're together every day. But, you know, he's the first one to admit that he was absolutely wrong, and that's not the message he should give off to kids. So that's why he wanted to go in and do stuff. But when he had the hearing and then they indefinitely withdrew his licence, that was, you know, that was difficult. That's where the problem was.
Well, we know the loophole now, which is something we can touch on again in terms of the rights and wrongs and the BBBC and everything else. But just quickly, because we've not anybody spoken greatly about the fight.
Yeah,
you know, it is happening whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
So, from your point of view, Don, obviously, how does Dereck beat David Haye?
Well, he's the better fighter. He's a fighter. And people don't think... Dereck can also box. He can do both. And he's a natural heavyweight. There's a lot of factors. I'm not going to go into details. There's a lot of factors. The same way David Haye believes, and his trainer Adam Booth believe they can beat us, we also equally believe we can beat them, which is makes... It's a really... Listen, if I wasn't involved, I would pay to go and watch this fight, because it's a very exciting fight.
Well, that's one of the things, isn't it? People that are involved in boxing, like I work on boxing week in, week out, and if I'm not working on boxing, I'm generally not there. Do you know what I mean, Dom? Because it's a little bit like that. But this is one of those fights that's caught the imagination. That's, you know, made people, non-boxing people, sit up and go, do you know what? I'd like to see that, because you've got two individuals there, two characters. You know, they're both totally different people, two characters, and it's created for a massive fight, and I think people do want to see it. Like I'm one of those people that would, you know, pay money to go and see it. You know, it's generally a fight that is going to bring a lot of excitement, and you never know what's going to happen on the night, do you?
And does it bother you, some of the threats, if you like, about being involved in this from the BBBC?
Again, I'll speak for myself. This is purely my own opinion. Obviously, I'm Dereck Chisora's trainer. So for the board to take the stance are about to take, by writing to everybody saying anybody who takes part with that promotion will no longer be recognised by the board as a license holder. Again, it's a wrong stance to take. It's very bold. It's a wrong stance to take. I think they should really look at it again, because otherwise they're going to, I predict they will have a mass exodus of trainers, fighters jumping over to the other fence. Can I also add, I'm an old-fashioned guy. I'm 50 years old, yeah? I'm very romantic about what I do. I'm very romantic about the British board. In fact, I think they do a tremendous job. They have always done a tremendous job for boxing in this country. And it's so sad if this happens, where they allow this to happen. I don't believe it's too late. Again, that's me being romantic. I don't believe it's too late for the board to reverse that decision. Listen, we've seen it happen in the country that we live in, whether it's the Labour Party, Conservative. When an MP steps out of line, what happens? They'll get rid of that particular MP, okay? Reform, bring out the other thing and say, we're sorry, we got it wrong, and you move on. The board should really take this stance, because I believe that it's a British fight, and I believe the British Boxing Board of Control should be behind this fight.
Well, we will talk more about this, but we're going to have to move on just at this point. But of course, this is a story that's going nowhere. We are going to be talking Olympics as well with Don and with Spencer. This is The Fight Show right here on Sports Tonight Live. Welcome back. This is The Fight Show here on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, in the studio alongside me, Spencer Oliver and Don Charles, and we've been talking all things Chisora and Haye, of course. We are going to move on a little bit, because we could talk about that probably for about 3 weeks and the implications of it and everything else. But we're going to look at Olympics. It's going to be a huge summer, of course, in London, and games that, not just from the boxing point of view, I'm sure you two guys are very excited about everything that we're going to get here on our doorstep. So if it's not boxing, what are you going to pay particular interest in, Spencer?
Well, listen, I love all athletics. I mean, I love anything to do with the sprints. Everyone loves the 100 metres. But I just love the Olympics in general, really.
The whole event,
I find anything fascinating in the Olympics. You know why I like the Olympics so much? Because it always turns out surprises, and that's, you know, it's a bit like an FA Cup. It's always the unexpected person that goes and wins things, and that's what makes it so exciting.
As we are here to talk boxing, let's look at the boxing team now, if we go back to Beijing, and of course, if you look at that and the big winners, and that was the squad that obviously got on the plane. I mean, there was a bit of an issue with Frankie Gavin, of course, who didn't compete in the end. He had a problem with weight, but you know, all the others, of course, went there. And in fact, Joe Murray's missing from that list as well. Of course, did compete, but didn't get beyond the round one. But David Price, who, you know, since turning over, and of course he's got a fight coming up, which we'll talk about in more detail a bit later on, but been a big success. Tony Jeffries has had a funny one, hasn't he, since the bronze that he picked up there?
Tony Jeffries, a lovely guy that he is, really nice guy. He doesn't seem to have made that transition from amateurs to
He's
pro.
over in the States though, isn't he?
Yeah, but he was in the States before. He was working in the States before. You know what, some kids just don't seem to make that. But like, what he does, Tony Jeffries, he does everything brilliantly. Me and Don were talking about this on the way up with certain fighters. You know, they throw... With the amateur style now, because of the computer scoring, they've changed the system, changed the style. So it's the simple jab, the 1-2s, and that's really taken away from when they turn professional. And Tony Jeffries doesn't seem to have adapted to the professional style. He's sort of very there, and he's got no lateral movement, and seems to be struggling as a pro.
Yep. James DeGale we know about, of course. Yep. His profile is as high now as it was when he came back, I suppose, with that gold around his neck. And Billy Joe making big noise now at middleweight. Bradley Saunders recently turning over. Frankie, of course, who's had a problematic, I suppose, time, a mixed time, still unbeaten, of course. I think for Andrew Selby, that's Joe Murray's place that we were talking about before. And then Khalid Yaffe, of course, has just turned over in the last day or two. He's going to join up with Eddie Hearn and the Matchroom team. So big news there. Well, that's 2008. Now, of course, the high hopes for 2012. If we look at who is going to do the business, we hope at the Excel in Docklands in the summer. We're not going to get the graphic anytime soon, but if we run through the ones that we know anyway, there we are. The super heavyweight, Anthony Joshua, you two boys know him very well, and hopefully we will hear from him in just a second or two. Anthony Ogogo, now he's had an interesting story as well, though, hasn't he? I mean, this fella has had to do it the hard way. Shoulder injuries twice, and he's qualified at the last chance saloon, if you like. But to beat all the good kids that he had to do with the injury and everything else, he showed great mettle, didn't he? Yeah,
he certainly did. He certainly did. I mean, Tom Stalker as well, another great medal hope. Josh Saylor. Do you know what? You look through the list there, and there's not one of them kids, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a British guy and the fights and the Olympic Games are going on in Britain, but there's not one of those kids that you wouldn't think is capable of winning a medal. Every one of those, I'll put down. I'll be surprised if any one of those doesn't win a medal.
Well, I think you see, if you go to Sheffield and you see the way that they train and the way that they're prepared now, and under the guidance of Rob McCracken, it's a fine setup, isn't it? And you can see where the money's gone.
Do you know what, Dom?
The investment.
When I was boxing for England, going back to 1994, right, from 92 to 94, I mean, we was boxing Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games and all that. The setup now to what we had then is just... They've moved forward in leaps and bounds. It's phenomenal, and that's why these kids are doing so well now. You know, it was a case of us. We used to go there once every 2 weeks for a weekend, and then do our own stuff there. But now they've just sort of mastered the art of the computer scoring. They've got Rob McCracken there, who's a great trainer. Carl Froch, his trainer. You know, he comes with a wealth of experience, amateur and pro. And they've got the best physios up there. I mean, you've seen the setup yourself, and I just think that they're doing a marvellous job, and that's why I would say, you know, we're going to see a few gold medal winners there, definitely.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that the biggest fella there, by some distance, is Anthony Joshua, who joins us on the line now. Anthony, how are you doing? I know you've been busy, as ever. You're out there competing prior to the big day in the sun that we all hope you're going to have in London. All going well?
Everything's going well. Just come back from a tournament that 3 of us qualified fighters went there. We all won gold medals, so everything's on track.
When you go into those tournaments now, so close to the Olympic, I mean, you've still got a few months, of course, but is it ever, you know, the last thing you need is an injury or anything like that at this stage of, after so many years of competing and qualifying and getting there now? Is that ever in the back of your mind?
Most definitely, because as you said, it's so close to the games, you don't want anything to go wrong. But at the same time, I love the game, I love boxing, so I would never turn down an opportunity to gain more experience. And it's always good to see where I'm at so close to the games. I think I gain more than anything going to this tournament, and it's the last one before July 27th. Well,
Anthony, I mean, you was down the gym. I had a little pad session with you down the gym just before you went, on the Monday before you went. And we was talking about that, weren't we, with it being so close to the Olympic Games and being worried about getting any hand injuries or whatever. But let me just tell you about Anthony Joshua. He's got so much confidence, this kid, that we was there and he was like, no, I just want to fight, I want to go there. And he's just showed that by going to win a gold medal. And Anthony, you got to be a hot favourite for the gold in these Olympics, haven't you?
Well, through track record, yeah. But one thing I know, no one can predict the future, but I know I believe in myself, and you know, with the nation behind me as well that believe in. We just got to bring it to reality. Come August 14th, that's the final day of the super heavyweight competition, and believe me, I hope I get there, and I believe I will. Well,
I think that's the secret, Andy. What you got to remember about this is that everybody's coming here, and they're coming here to beat you. Every one of these kids that's in that super heavyweight final at the moment is training to beat Anthony Joshua because it's in your homeland, it's in England. You've just beat the current Olympic champion in the previous tournament. You won a silver medal in the world, so you're the kid to beat. And as long as you take every fight as the gold medal fight, then that's the most important thing for you. I think that you can't take anybody lightly because you're the man to beat in this competition.
But no pressure.
no pressure at all.
This kid thrives on pressure.
Working hard and getting down to business, and the easy part's the fighting.
But I suppose so. I mean, you are a relative novice compared to some of the guys that you're competing against, and you know, Spencer there, who fully expects you to, as we all do. You know, you can deal with that then mentally. That's not something that bothers you. That people will look at you and expect.
No, because we all have expectations deep down within ourselves of what we want to achieve. And my expectations are no less than what you're hoping that I get as well. So behind closed doors, there's a lot of hard work being put in, and that's why we're getting these results. It's not through luck, man. It's hard work. And as Spencer said, though, I know everyone's going to be gunning to beat all of us London boys, and I'm going to be one to beat as well. But believe you me, I never turn over easy, man. I'm never going to turn over easy.
Right. So Anthony, tell us, what's your daily schedule at the moment? I mean, tell us how your training's going. What are you up to? What are you up in Sheffield at the moment, training all the time?
Yeah, I've changed my diet. I'm eating a lot of steak, a lot of beef, like, you know, getting some good food in me, getting solid. There's always running every day, 6 times a week without that. There's a lot of strength work. Always working on my legs, my neck, foundation and stuff, and a lot of sparring. And don't get me wrong, there's rest in there as well. You know, it can't always be hard work. I'm trying to get as much rest in as possible as well, trying to find a good balance so I can always keep on ticking over.
No,
it's full time.
In terms of your diet and the small details under the guidance of Rob McCracken, I know Richie Woodall, of course, is with you as well in Sheffield. I mean, they even have all your food mapped out, don't they? You get given packages. Everything is that specific to each individual and their needs, their nutrient needs, and everything else, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Don't get me wrong, I still have to slip a few packets of Mum's home-cooked food out there as well, you know what I mean? Because I'm a heavyweight, I can get away with it. But I try to get the goodness in me, but they're perfect. Everything they do is perfect. I'll never, you know, I take up some food from home as well.
Anthony, I mean, I was just saying to the boys then how they've moved on from when I was boxing as an amateur and stuff, and you were talking about your packaging and your food and stuff. I mean, when we had a spare hour, when we was down at Crystal Palace and when we was training for the Commonwealth Games and that, we had a spare hour, we'd be in Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's. I mean, that's how they've moved on, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kentucky Fried Chicken. No, we don't go there. We don't go there. As you said, everything's delivered. There's some nice chicken, rice. You know, anything you want, it can be delivered. So, it's crazy, as you said, Spencer. I heard you saying that it's moved on leaps and bounds from what it was to what it is now.
Yeah.
And that's why they are producing some great amateur fighters.
Now, just briefly before you leave us, Anthony, as we've got Don here now. Hey Chisora, I mean, don't want to get you in the politics of the thing, but two big boys in terms of the fight itself. I mean, where would you see that one going?
How many tickets sold out on the first day?
I think 18,000 or something. 26,000, I think, have been shifted. Of 38,000 to is the sellout. So, you know, the rights or the wrongs. We've been through that now, and that's not for you. I'm just in terms of the actual two boys. Now, how do you see it going?
I think personally, I think Hayes, an experienced boxer, you know, is for either one of them in that ring. it's not going to be an easy night. There's one pot in the middle, and you've got two men in each corner fighting for it. And no man's going to, same way I think they got the hunger, and no man's going to go over easy. Whoever goes in there expecting an easy night, I think, is the one who will lose. So whoever's going in there expecting a tough night and putting in the work will come out on top.
Anthony, mate, that's sitting on the fence a little bit too much. We need to know who you think is going to win.
You've just been very clever there. Anthony, you've been clever. Don't worry about that. There's nothing wrong with that. You've dealt with a tricky question. Anyway, very, very well. Well, listen, I'm sure preparations will go smoothly between now and then, and fantastic that you're all in such great shape, all the boys. And I know you all buzz off each other in that squad. It's a great scene. It's fantastic, and all the very best as well for the XL. I'm sure you're going to do the business.
Appreciate it, man.
Take care, mate. Take care.
Well done, mate. Well done for winning the gold medal recently as well.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it as well. All the best for the training.
Keep it going, and remember, just believe, man. All you got to do is believe. All right.
I will.
We know you work. We know you work hard enough. So just have that belief. You'll do it.
Thank you,
good man.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. So a bit of Olympic chat with Don and Spencer. We are going to be crossing stateside as well when you rejoin us here on the Fight Show on Sports Tonight Live. This is the Fight Show here on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, Spencer Oliver, and joined by Don Charles tonight, Dereck Chisora's trainer. It's easy for me to say, Dereck Chisora's trainer. And we've been through the machinations of that fight that, of course, some will never like it, and a lot have bought tickets, and there you are. So anyway, moving on, we're going to cross stateside now because, of course, there's been plenty to talk about as ever there. They've had the Amir Khan situation with Lamont Peterson, which is something that there will be a hearing about that in terms of where we go from here, Lamont Peterson and the testosterone pellet injections and everything else. So something to be cleared up about. Now, who better than Kevin Iole from Yahoo, who can give us the stateside reaction to the whole Peterson-Khan thing. Of course, many British fans, Kevin, are over there in Las Vegas at the moment because they bought tickets for Amir's fight, the fight that will never be at the moment anyway. So they're milling around Las Vegas with little to do. But what's your reaction about the whole thing and the way it's panned out?
Well, first of all, there's a lot to do in Las Vegas, so they're not finding any trouble getting into trouble here. So that would be my first point. But the whole situation is really sad, and I think this is a case of Lamont Peterson just totally and utterly failing his responsibility as a professional athlete. There's no other way to put it. You do not do this kind of thing when you're getting ready to do a fight. I don't care. He did it before the first fight. And, I can't get into his mind and read whether he was trying to cheat or whether he did have a medical condition. I question whether he has a medical condition, frankly, because I have interviewed endocrinologists and asked them what percentage of the male population between 18 and 40 who have not taken steroids would need testosterone replacement. And the answer for every one of them is less than 1%. Wow. So are you telling me that Lamont Peterson is this great athlete, this healthy guy, that he's in this less than 1% group? I have trouble believing that. But even if it's true that he had it, he had a responsibility to go through the proper channels and ask the commission for permission, both in D.C. before the December fight and now here before this fight, and he failed, and I think that he's going to bear a significant responsibility.
Yeah, Kevin, Lamont Peterson had his trainers and his conditioners. They knew about this because one of the trainers or one of the conditioners used to be on the American squad as the amateurs, and they know all about this testosterone thing, and they know about the whole drug procedure and stuff. So surely he would have known that beforehand. A fight of such magnitude, you would have known this thing.
Here's the thing that I think is suspicious to me. And so the British fans would have to know a little U.S. geography to understand this. But Peterson is from Washington, D.C., which is on the East Coast, about 2,500 miles, close to 3,000 miles, away from Las Vegas, which is on the West Coast. By flying from Washington to Vegas, it's a 4-hour flight. So that'll give you an idea how far it is. Peterson was going to a doctor in Las Vegas instead of a doctor in Washington, D.C., where he lives. And Washington, D.C. has some of the best hospitals and best doctors in the world in this field, in Washington, D.C., and he was traveling to Las Vegas to go to a doctor. So that makes you wonder what is up there. I find it, it may be innocent. He may have an explanation. He's going to appear before the Nevada Commission in June, and he may be able to explain it away, and everybody says, oh, okay, that makes sense. But until I hear his explanation, I'm going to be very suspicious.
Yeah, sure. And Kevin, also, has Lamont Peterson now, what is the current situation with him? Has he had his license revoked? Has he been banned? I mean, what's the situation?
Well, this is a gray area because he cannot be banned. He cannot have his license revoked because he did not have a license. In the U.S., each state issues its own license. So in every state, their license ends at the end of the year. So Peterson, at the end of the year, had a license in Washington, D.C., but nowhere else. Well, those licenses expired on December 31st. So in order to be licensed, he had to reapply starting January 1st. And in most cases, it's just a rubber stamp. Assuming you pass the medicals, bingo, they give it to you with no issue. Well, that would have been the case until this whole testosterone thing came up. But because he does not have a license, the commission cannot punish him. And it's slightly different than, for fans who follow both boxing and UFC, a little different than Alistair Overeem's case a couple of weeks ago, because Overeem had actually applied for a license and had a hearing scheduled with the Nevada Commission when it came out that he failed a test because of the same issue, testosterone. Peterson had not applied actually for a license yet, so Nevada actually in no state has jurisdiction over him. So at this point, he cannot be punished, and it would be up to any individual state to license him or not license him as they choose to see fit.
It's interesting, isn't it, Kevin? I know with some justification as well, you were getting tired of Amir Khan's bleating, if you like, after the fight, because you just thought it was sour grapes and you couldn't understand why he wouldn't be quiet about everything. Now, he was unsettled about many things, a lot of which was nonsense in terms of, the man in the hat and everything else. But, in the cold light of day, Amir is probably, something was telling him something wasn't right, if you know what I mean. So it comes out of this well down the line, doesn't he?
Well, you're right. I was against what Amir was doing, the way he conducted himself in the aftermath of that fight, and I will still say the same thing. But I agree. You know what? Amir Khan, when he was challenged to take the drug testing test, there's been rumors surrounding Amir because of his conditioning coach, which are unfair, and there's been never anything proven. But that's the way the internet is. People accuse others of doing things without any proof whatsoever. So it was unfair to Alex Ariza, who had been training him in the past, and it was unfair to Amir Khan. But you know what? Amir stepped up and said, "I will do the right thing. I'll take the drug testing," and he did, and he passed his test. And it's Lamont Peterson, the guy who demanded the test. So yeah, I admire Amir Khan, and I am not closed-minded. Just because I felt Amir Khan was wrong in that one situation doesn't mean that I feel Amir Khan is wrong in every situation. And I think you have to take each situation as an individual case, not just make one blanket statement to cover everything.
Well, that's the crazy thing, isn't it? Lamont Peterson was the one that called for the drugs test, and he's the one that gets found guilty. I mean, how crazy is that?
And it's just totally nuts. And you just can't understand what these guys are doing. Because if he has this problem, if he has low testosterone, there is a method to be able to fix it. It's there. You apply for what's called a therapeutic use exemption, a TUE, and you have your doctors send letters in. The commission questions your doctor, and the Nevada Commission has given a number of those out. So it has happened multiple times. So Peterson could have easily gotten it if it was medically necessary. But the fact that he did not do it goes back to what I said earlier. It makes me very, very, very suspicious of him.
Before we let you go, Kevin, just your thoughts on Manny Pacquiao, who has got himself in a bit of a stir over stateside with some of his comments about gay marriage. And I know that there's been a bit of verbal sparring between himself and, of course, Floyd Mayweather, who's got involved. So you've been following this. I know that you've been speaking to Manny. So what was your version of the timeline of events?
Well, unfortunately what happened, Manny's team allowed him to do an interview with a writer who is not a real true journalist and who has been known for creating controversy and stirring up controversy. So that writer asked Manny his stance on gay marriage, and President Obama recently came out in support of gay marriage and saying that he believed that gays ought to be able to be married and have the same rights as a man and a woman. So Manny Pacquiao expressed his belief, which is the belief shared by many Americans, including almost all Republican members of Congress here, that he is against same-sex marriage. So whatever your position on that case is, you know, Manny Pacquiao's entitled to that opinion. But where the uproar came in was when it appeared that he had quoted the book of Leviticus from the Bible saying, death to homosexuals. Well, nobody can support somebody who's advocating violence or death to somebody because they're a homosexual, and that's where the controversy was. But it turned out that Manny Pacquiao had not said that, and he only said, I'm against same-sex marriage, but he did not make the comment about the book of Leviticus. That was done by the writer of the original article, and it was sensationalized, and it would then, frankly, other media picked it up irresponsibly and attributed it to Manny. So in some ways he was done a disservice. You know, personally, I am a liberal person. I believe, you know what, if I support equal rights, I support equal rights for everybody. But I respect Manny's right to his opinion, and I just think this whole thing got blown out of proportion, and it's unfortunate for everybody involved.
Interestingly, that Floyd Mayweather did have his two penneth afterwards by saying that he was with Barack Obama on all of this. Obviously, just a little bit of a jibe. But we're talking with the lads here in this studio, Spencer Oliver and Don Charles, about Mayweather Cotto. You know, before we went on air, and the performance, and Spencer feels that, you know, Cotto a little hard done by. It wasn't the masterclass many are saying about Mayweather, and that Cotto helped make it a fight.
My point that I was making, Kevin, was that yes, Mayweather boxed exceptionally well, as he always does, and they showed no signs of deterioration. But what I felt was, I mean, I don't know if you felt the same, but when I was listening to the commentators speaking or whatever, like, Cotto would land 3 decent punches, Mayweather would throw a jab, and he'd go, you know, what a great jab by Floyd Mayweather. And it was sort of like the 3 punches went unseen, and it was like, I thought that Cotto, although he was convincingly beat, I thought it takes 2 guys to make a decent fight, and I thought that Cotto boxed out of his skin as well.
I agree with you 100%. I thought Cotto was in the fight. I thought, especially in the first half of the fight, that, you know, he was doing a really good job. I kind of felt like, you know, he didn't have that extra gear to go to conditioning-wise where Mayweather did, and I thought that was ultimately the difference. You know, when after 6 rounds, if Cotto could have picked up the pace a little bit more, it might have been different. But I thought for sure he was in the fight, and, you know, I was ringside that night, so I didn't hear the commentators until later. And then when I heard it, I was going like, my Lord, do you realize that there were actually 2 guys fighting?
Absolutely. And that was the point that I was watching. I mean, I didn't know if it was because it was 5 o'clock in the morning and perhaps my head wasn't working properly, but I'm glad that you've just solved that for me.
Yeah, no, you were right on the money. No doubt about it.
Kevin, thank you very much, as ever, for all your amazing insight, actually, into everything that's happening over there. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.
Kevin Iole there. We're going to take a short break, and then when we do come back, he's not messing around. He's off, Kev. Look at that. Busy man. He's got all them books to read. When we do come back, we're going to be looking ahead to all the fights of the weekend and beyond. This is The Fight Show right here on Sports Tonight Live. Welcome back. This is The Fight Show here on Sports Tonight Live with me, Don McGuinness, in the studio with Spencer Oliver and Don Charles. We've been talking, of course, Dereck Chisora, the Olympics. We've had all the news stateside from Kevin Iole, and now we're going to have a look at some of the action that we can look forward to this weekend and beyond, because it is a very busy one, because we do have actually this weekend the first Box Academy from the Box Nation, which is the first fight that we see there. The headline, there's plenty of fights on that, some very good ones. Joe Selkirk versus Jason Ball. And this Box Academy idea, of course, is to get young fighters, you know, young unbeaten fighters mainly against other fairly young, you know, with decent records. Get them out there, get them fights, get them out there, try and build their profiles.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about. It's a good idea, basically, isn't it, to get them out there and get.
It's a step in the right direction. You know, I think that these sort of things should be happening. And like the World Series that we was talking about before. I mean, all these things are good for boxing.
It's like, well, the World Series of boxing, anything that's going to get guys a bit more experience in the world of boxing. And it sounds very simple, but it's still something that isn't necessarily. I mean, too many young lads are inactive, aren't they?
Well, listen, we get it all the time in our gym. Don trains loads of them on a daily basis. You know, he spends all day, every day training these kids, and like they can't get fights. I mean, it's not like you used to be able to get a fight every 2 weeks. Now Don will train someone, and then it's like 4 months later.
Nobody wants to fight anybody.
Well, Selkirk, a big prospect from Merseyside, and Jason Ball, who can have a row. He's certainly a decent fighter there. But Price Sexton is the headline of the weekend.
Yeah.
David Price and Sexton fighting for the now vacated heavyweight crown after Tyson Fury, of course,
title, isn't it?
has vacated.
British Commonwealth.
I think there's 2 belts on the line there. Yeah.
Yes, and you know,
Listen,
we've seen what Price has done recently in blowing people away. But
me and Don be chatting about this fight. It's another exciting fight. Don knows these two better than anybody else in the country. You know, David Price comes to our gym and spars all the time. Sam Sexton, obviously, he's only 2 defeats by Dereck Chisora. I mean, I've gone for David Price. I just think that he's just the more rounded fighter. Obviously, Don, we had this chat, didn't we? And Don, Don agreed to disagree. I mean, for me, Price, it just seems the better of the two, and I think that Sexton, as we saw against Chisora a couple of times, comes undone in the second half of the fight. And for me, I'm going to lean towards Price, but now over to Don Charles.
Yeah, I mean, we were discussing this prior to coming to see you. And I know these 2 guys. David Price, again, everyone always says people are nice people. He's a very nice guy, genuinely a gentleman, nice guy. But I'm talking here purely boxing, yeah, from my observations. Sam Sexton is also a very nice chap, and his trainer. I believe, if you ask me what would the outcome be of this fight, I'm going to lean towards Sam Sexton, because I'll tell you why, a couple of reasons. His only 2 defeats have been against Dereck Chisora. The styles, okay? Sam Sexton has been in wars with Dereck Chisora. Although he was beaten, they were tough fights for us, okay, against Dereck Chisora. Also, he's been in 2 exciting fights with Martin Rogan away from home in Belfast, okay? He also won the prize fight, and during that prize fighter competition, if I may point out, the people he beat, there's a chap called Pele Reid, a very dangerous boxer. He tamed him for 3 rounds. He beat him. Also, he beat the high tower, Chris Burton. Okay, he stopped him. Not only did he beat him, he stopped Chris Burton, a very fine boxer. Actually resembles David Price in a lot of ways, in height, in styles. So Sexton's been there. He's tested and trialed. Okay, his only 2 losses have been against Dereck Chisora, who's boxed for a world title. Okay, based on those facts, and also seen them close hand, they've both sparred with Dereck on numerous occasions. And based on my observations, I think it's Sexton's fight.
that would be a big shock, wouldn't it?
Well, not to me. It won't be a shock.
Not to you, no, but that's, you've worked at close encounters. It's great insight, but it would be an amazing shock. Particularly with the way he's dealt with the likes of John McDermott and of course Tom Dallas.
He's got everything. Sam Sexton's very versatile, very versatile, underrated. Unfortunate for him and Dereck Chisora met for Sexton at the wrong time for Sexton's career, because had not Chisora not been around, Sexton would have been further than where his career is today. Yeah, and that's a fact.
Well, a little after that, Frankie Gavin. Yeah. Nasir Al-Harbi. I mean, Frankie Gavin back to Birmingham.
I'm pleased.
Settle down a bit.
I'm pleased. I think it's the right move for him. He tried to come out to London, tried training with Jimmy Tibbs and stuff. He was very unsettled. He had a lot of personal problems that have now been highlighted. Everybody knows about. He seems like he's in a good place, and you know, I think for Frankie Gavin, had he not sort of pulled himself back together, he would have been one of the most talented underachievers, if you like. I think we're going to see a lot more from him. I'm glad that he's back in Birmingham. I think he's now more settled, and I'm looking forward to seeing him continue his career on May the 25th.
Just moving through the next few quite swiftly. Carl Froch, Don, does he beat Lucian Bute?
Most definitely. Yeah.
You having that?
Yeah, listen, Froch homecoming. Bute is a tough fight. He's considered the #1 super middleweight out there. Does he beat him? Now I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm not quite sure. My heart says yeah, because Carl Froch is a good friend of mine.
I believe Carl will be up for this, and he's got the tools to do it, and he will do it. He's a very positive man.
A big factor is that it's going on in Nottingham as well. Yeah.
Massive factor.
Yeah. Well, Pacquiao won't be marrying Bradley, that's for sure, but will he beat him?
Well, listen, Bradley here has been written off in this contest, and he can. I think this is a tough fight. He boxes like a little ball, and I think that he could make it difficult for Pacquiao.
It's almost like I'm always backing the underdogs. You know why? One of the reasons, Dereck Chisora is always the underdog, right? Okay. And Tim Bradley, he will beat Manny Pacquiao.
And the signs that Pacquiao
he will beat Manny Pacquiao.
Pacquiao's been up there last couple of fights.
He will beat Manny Pacquiao.
This is a fascinating one. Quigg, Monroe. the stages of their career, and Monroe feeling that he's been written off already?
My old weight division, many moons ago. Yeah, Scott Quigg is the up-and-coming kid. Monroe, been there, boxed for the world title, European champion.
I'm leaning towards Monroe.
I'm going to lean towards Quigg. Now, we don't often go the separate ways all the time, you know, but I'm going to lean towards Quigg. For me, I think Quigg's just the fresher of the two. Monroe has had quite a long career. He knows it's last chance saloon, which may bring the best out in him, but for me, I'm just going to lean towards Quigg.
Scott Quigg does come through that fight, and I know that, you know, people around him know that it's going to be a big, tough night against Monroe, because Monroe is still only 31. Everyone seems to be writing him off as if he's over the hill. But a lot of people. And there's this Quigg-Frampton rivalry that everyone's trying to kind of engineer and move to.
And they're overlooking.
Well, he thinks that he's going to spoil both parties, if you like.
As it stands at the moment, Randall Monroe is the #1 super bantamweight in the country. Scott Quigg, #2, Frampton, #3. So Monroe's got something to prove. He wants another world title shot. This is the hurdle he's got to get over. But for me, I've just got this feeling in me that Quigg.
An all-rounded. The kid is an all-rounded fighter, and I tend to go for someone who's an all-rounded fighter, and I believe he will do it. And the hunger.
Yeah.
And finally, Carson Jones has been talking big about Kell Brook. Kell Brook, Amir Khan, can that happen down the line? But Carson Jones?
Don't overlook Carson Jones. Now, I've looked at him on YouTube when I first heard this fight was announced. He's lost 8 fights. They were quite a while ago. He's won 20 of his last 21. Stopped his last 8. Real tough fight for him. Carson Jones is a danger man. Tough.
Well, he also said people overlooked the likes of Margarito.
Absolutely.
Because he had loads of losses on his record, but you know, on his day he's won world titles, and on his day can be that dangerous. So that's the toughest fight to date then.
Sure. The freshness of Kell Brooks, and he's again ambitious, and he wants to be the man. And there's a lot of elements which will see him through, and the skill factor is very skillful fighter.
I agree with Don, as in, Kell Brook wins, but I think that he knows at this stage of his career it's an eliminate for a world title. He can't afford any hiccups. He can't afford to take this fight lightly. Carson Jones is a real live wire.
Final word this evening, and I'm sorry, Spencer, it's got to go to Don, because I just want your final prediction now, if we don't speak to you before. Haye, Chisora, how is it going to go? Give us a prediction.
A prediction, of course, we're going to win.
Will you give me a round? Is it that kind of?
Pardon me?
Would you pick a round? Is it that kind of fight?
No. We're going to win, and it's going to be a very good fight for the public to watch. Yeah. Okay. Adam Booth is a master tactician. So am I, but he's more popular than me because he's known. I'm not known. So it'll be very, very interesting.
Thank you very much indeed, Don, for your insight and for your time tonight. Spencer, as always. This has been The Fight Show, right here on Sports Tonight Live.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.